Welcome to What's Your I Can Conversations, the podcast that brings the pages of What's Your I Can, realize your I can in purpose, business, and family to life. I'm your host, Kristy Angelee, and I'm thrilled to have you aboard as we dive into thought-provoking discussions with inspiring individuals from diverse fields. Together, we'll explore how these remarkable thought leaders apply the principles from the book to turn their I Can aspirations into reality, shaking up the status quo. Today, I am excited to have the incredible Dr. Amita Kumar on board. Let's get started. So, Miss Amita, tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. So great to be here with you guys and to be on the show. I just wanted to say really quick, because I forgot, that the reason I found you was because your last name is actually my sister's first name. And it's spelled exactly like that, which is so funny. And I just could never forget you because that's your name. So that's what attracted me to you. I am a physician. I live in San Antonio, Texas. I was not always a physician, of course. And I am currently practicing medicine. I'm a mom. My kids are 11 and 14. My husband is a surgeon. And we live in Texas near our extended family. I actually grew up in Canada, so I don't have the same thoughts as everyone around me necessarily. But I've been able to pick up a few here and there that I like and that I dislike and that I want to keep and that I don't want to keep, right? And I've recently, during the COVID pandemic, also been certified in health and life coaching. As I was telling you earlier, I think as a primary care doctor, that's what I've been doing all these years, but now it's official. And I now have a lot of more tools. I just finished reading Atomic Habits, which, man, it's like a textbook. If you haven't read it, it's really incredible, but you got to read it probably 10 times. I'm on time number 1. And some of my favorite things from that is about living intentionally, but also setting goals and figuring out a system. So I know you talk about roadmaps, and I love that you talk about roadmaps. I don't know why I didn't come up with that analogy earlier. I've been talking about smooth roads versus gravel roads for many months now, and how it is natural to be happy on the smooth road, the straight road, that's easy to drive on, that's no traffic and not bumpy. But if you're not going towards the destination that you want to be on, then sometimes the bumpy road is actually the right road to be on, even though it's more uncomfortable.
Okay, so you said something. You said a mouthful. That was really yummy.
It's okay.
I'm just like, you did. That was great. These bumpy road can be the best road for you. See, let's talk about that. Tell me, why did you say that? What does that mean to you? Have you experienced? Yeah. Okay, let's lean back.
So I always wanted to be a doctor. My grandfather told me that I should be a doctor. At one time when somebody asked me when I was 8 years old, what do you want to be? I said doctor. Okay. To me, it was a relatively straight path, right? That the path is laid out already. I got to do all the certain checkpoints. I got to go to college. I got to do my MCAT. I got to go to medical school. I got to do my steps. I got to do residency. I got to do my boards, blah, 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 right? All of those steps have all been done before me. Where I was going to go to college, what kind of grades I was going to get, what classes I was going to take, what residency, all those things were variables, but I never thought about them. Okay, well, I didn't really know that there were so many variables. I grew up in a small place. I told you guys I'm from Canada. I'm from Saskatchewan. That's north of North Dakota. So Regina, Regina, that's a place. I grew up, born and raised. And I went to medical school. I went to undergrad first in Montreal. That was never in my plans. That was never in my destiny. That was not on my smooth road. I was supposed to go to the University of Saskatchewan, just like everyone before me, go to medical school there, be a doctor there. Nothing was ever supposed to be different. But my parents moved to Texas, and I took that badly, to say the least. And at 16 actually, my parents said, we'll send you to whatever college you get into. That's the best school. So I refused to come to Texas, even though I live here now. And I went to Montreal. I went to McGill. I had a great time, but it was rude awakening with 750 people in my class who all wanted to be doctors. I just had never been to the big city, I guess, or been in a big classroom or whatever, right? Like I didn't know what that kind of competition looked like. And it was really tough. I did not do well in school. I wasn't sure I was ever going to be a doctor because, of course, you have to have good grades. I eventually took my MCAT. I did okay. And one of my friends went to school in Dublin, Ireland. And I was like, sure, why not? So I applied there, had nothing to lose. And I got in magically. So I went to Dublin, Ireland. I didn't even know where that was really on the map. So embarrassing now because that's like my second home. And I spent 6 years there, right? Like I had no idea what I was doing. No idea. Okay. I just like started doing all these things and you're like, sure. My roadmap was like, I just need to become a doctor. So in a very scenic route, I became a doctor. I met my now husband there. Who knew? We moved to Kentucky for residency. We had our babies there. I didn't even literally know where Kentucky was. Do not judge me. I'm from Saskatchewan, remember? And I literally had to Google Kentucky. And now, many years later, it was like all those things happened the way they were supposed to. They were bumpy, lots of bumps. Okay. And I'm not saying that it was comfy the whole time. It was super scary. I used to say, if it's not scary, it's probably not worth it. Okay, well, it's not very inspirational sounding. I wish somebody had told me something other than that. But what I do recognize now is that I'm sort of trying to trust in the process and my trajectory and my intentional living and my intentional habits, even maybe, to guide me as long as my destination stays the same. So as long as my values are in line, as long as my wanting to be present with my kids, spending quality time with my family, intentional time at work, just literally breaking it down into the different categories of my life, social, career, family, all the spiritual, community, all those things, breaking them down, knowing what my goals are for all those things, and then having a system. It's actually much more manageable and much more obvious when you wake up 3 months later and you're like, I am where I want to be, or I'm not where I want to be, or I'm on the path to where I want to be. Exactly. So that's what I mean by bumpy road.
Yeah. And I love the fact that on your bumpy road, regardless of the, experiences that you gain, not knowing the knowledge, the wisdom that you gained, you wouldn't have known where Kentucky was. You wouldn't have known about Dublin. You wouldn't have known about, all of these, I would say yummy things that comes along with bumpy roads, right? And you wouldn't be able to share and become this intentional living person that you are today. That's what my whole book is all about. What's your I can? Realizing your I can. You wouldn't have realized who you were if you would have taken the smooth path. You said a lot.
Oh, I had no idea that was going to happen. And, when people, my patients, especially when they read my bio, many of them will come in and be like, oh my gosh, Dr. Kumar, you're so interesting. And I'm like, whoa, I'm from Saskatchewan. let's just start with that. I am not losing track of who I am. It is super exciting now to talk about all the things that have happened. But also like to remember that I went in with kind of a blank slate. When you're 19, 20 years old, probably the most stressful few years of my life were the, getting into medical school years, not knowing. Of course, the unknown is always the most stressful, the scariest. I wish that someone had told me that uncomfortable doesn't mean wrong path, though.
It's point blank. Yeah.
Something along those lines.
Exactly. Because a lot of people think because it becomes tough. Things become like seemingly unbearable, like it's an impossible That means I'm
Mhm.
not supposed to be on that path. This is not for me because all the red flags are there, or so they think they're red flags. Instead of saying, okay, I am faced with this challenge. I am faced with, not having, as a student, not having the money to pay for food. And what do I need to do in those, small things, that behind the scenes things that's not really, as prevalent, right? So understanding that the impossible just means there's a different way. It means that, as someone say, if you break impossible apart, it's impossible.
I love that.
So when you actually look at it, you have an I can in you that needs to rise up and say, I can do this. Now, just let me think about different ways. Let me know the strategies that I have, what strategy in me that I can access, putting the right people in place. Understanding, like, I need this person in order for me to get to A, B, and C. And like you said, you got to have a roadmap. You have to know where you're going. You just like a GPS, and going to Kentucky, Googling things that you have no idea. I know I need to get here, but how on God's green earth do I get here? I know I need to have, a six-figure income, or I know I want my family to live in this neighborhood, or I know I want to go to this school. I want to eat this food. I want to drive this vehicle. So everything down to the T, you got to have a roadmap and understand where you're going, or else, as you mentioned earlier, just because you were in a place, you may like some of their ideas, but you didn't have to take on everything that they took on. You challenge maybe the ideals of your society, of your community. And so that's a very, very, I would say, strong discipline to not conform to your world that you may be in at that point in time. And knowing, as you stated earlier, I come from here. I come from this. This is who I am, and not get lost, but take on, like maybe there's some good and some bad. My mom always say, when you're eating fish, if you're eating the fish with bones, you need to learn how to eat the meat. You don't have to swallow the bones. Eat the meat and throw away the bones. Or eat the
That's
meat.
so true. I think I
Yeah.
got lucky in I can't believe I just said that. I think I got lucky that my parents moved to Texas. Wow. And I got uprooted. I don't think I've ever said that. Okay.
You guys are hearing it first here.
Because I had to kind of look inside me for the roadmap.
Yeah.
It was difficult. I had no idea what that even meant. Like, I was literally a small town girl. It's not, so Regina, Saskatchewan is actually not a small town. It's actually the capital of Saskatchewan. It's like 180, 200,000 people now. It is not small town, okay? In Canada,
Right.
I know here everybody thinks it's a small town, but in the world, it might be considered a small town. So I say I'm a small town girl, but I really mean I'm from the capital of Saskatchewan. And everyone in Canada knows where it is. But really, like, I got really lucky growing up with a simple-ish life, and biking to the corner store. I know I grew up in a different time in the 80s, right? Like, there was no Instagram, there was no computers, even all those things. So, again, my kids are going to hear this someday. I got lucky. No computers, no Instagram, no Google Maps. I had a physical map. I got to get lost, right? Like, I had to rely on myself to get to Montreal. I had to rely on myself to pay my bills. I did not know how to do that. I had to look inside for who I truly was. Like, we used to go to the temple in our hometown on Sundays. When I went to Montreal, we didn't go to the temple. I didn't know who to go to. I didn't know where to go. I actually have some family there, so I went to the temple one weekend on Diwali, which is like a big celebration for us. And I realized that it wasn't my temple. And actually, that was like a really big eye-opening thing for me, because I realized that it was inside me. And it had nothing to do with the building anymore. And so that's just a simple thing that's spiritual, religious, but actually I can extrapolate it to everything, which is just because my mom's not here doesn't mean her words are not in my head.
Exactly.
Just because my teacher's not here doesn't mean his words are not in my head. And I get to decide now, like, all those things that I've been told, all the thoughts in my head are not mine. Okay. Let's be real. The thoughts in my head are somebody else's words. the good and the bad.
Mm-hmm.
But at some point in your early 20s, I think, hopefully, we get a chance to pause and think about the thoughts in our head and whether we want to keep them and move forward
Mm-hmm.
or unlearn them, as I like to say,
Mm-hmm.
because they're no longer serving us.
Mm-hmm.
And that is something that I actually bought a book. I was 17, 18 years old, and it was called What is Your Life Purpose? Because I was so lost.
Mm-hmm.
I was so lost with nothing around me that was familiar.
Mm-hmm.
Downtown Montreal was not like being on the prairie where I could see the sunset every day. And I didn't
Right.
even realize that that was a thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, finding meaning and purpose was the most important thing. And I got lucky that being a doctor gives me both. So my work gives meaning and purpose is just
Mm-hmm.
a good combination. And of course, when I became a mom, meaning and purpose took on a whole nother level with my kids.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. I love that. And one of the topics that I talk on in my book is not having enough faith. You know, and so you abort and you kill purpose.
Mm-hmm.
You abort your assignment. You don't have enough faith in your own ability to think things through. So I love the fact that you were able to start, deciphering and breaking limiting beliefs about thoughts, and changing your mental capacity even then. So you've transitioned from primary care physician to a certified health coach, and everything that you have learned, everything that you have gained, how has this evaluation in your career allowed you to better support your patients in achieving their health and wellness goals?
Oh man, I don't know why it took me so long to learn this or why it's been hiding. This whole coaching thing is relatively new to me. I know it's not new to many, many, many people on most of the earth, apparently. But I was just so stuck on science. In fact, one of the reasons I became a doctor was because I liked the black and white. The more I lived life, the more I realized there's a lot less black and white. And one of my patients told me, she just looked at me and I looked at her and I said, is there actually no black and white? And she's like, she's obviously a lot older than I am. And I was like,
Yeah.
there's only gray. But actually, this is where the whole thought process, I guess I'm going to say, and feelings process comes in, where your thoughts create your feelings, right? And then that drives your actions, etc. So when you can figure out that, first of all, feeling uncomfortable does not mean you're on the wrong road or the wrong path and that it's actually not going to kill you. Uncomfortable does not mean abort, right? Just like you said. And rather, uncomfortable might mean feel it and then decide if you're still on the right road. And it's unknown, but that does not, unknown comes with fears, but fears usually lead to growth. And so if you get to experience fears and growth, then you're probably on the right path. When I talk with my patients about their health goals, we talk a lot about systems, but a lot of it has to do with having your own back. Like you said, having faith in yourself. So I call it having your own back because it's like, if I was talking to my sister or my best friend, I would never say the things that I say to myself to her. Like, oh, it's okay. Just skip the gym today. I would never say that. If she said, I don't feel like going to the gym, I would say, dude, you can do it. Just go spend 5 minutes there. Who cares if you spend 5 minutes or 15 minutes, or you walk on the treadmill instead of run, or you lift 5 minutes of weights instead of 20 or whatever, right? Like, that's what I would say. But somehow when it becomes me and my own self-talk, I say, forget it. Why is my self-talk so different?
Exactly. And having to trace the reasons why. And so when you are helping others in your, coaching, it's like you're coaching yourself as well. One, you don't want to be hypocritical. And I tell them, I don't want to be hypocritical in what I'm saying. And I'm telling you to do something. And then here I am sitting on the couch with a bag of potatoes, but I'm saying potato chips. And I'm saying, oh yeah, you work out. You need to, because A, B, and C, your destiny is your purpose is to live a life of health and wealth. And you got to understand, like I tell myself now, my decisions determines my destiny. It determines my destiny in my health. It determines my destiny in my wealth. It determines my destiny in my relationship. So whatever I decide in any given moment, when I am faced with these, oh, do I want to do this? Do I want to cheat myself, or do I want to live at my fullest potential? I'm like, Kristy, what is your destiny? What is your goal? Where do you see yourself? And if you see yourself, taking 5 to 10 years where you can get somewhere in 3 to 5, months or so, then choose the quickest path. So what you're doing today, is it going to put you on the road to your quickest path, or is it going to take longer? Because it's going to determine your destiny and how long it's going to take for you to get there. So having the right people around is key.
Oh, yeah.
I talk about that in my book. Sometimes you get afraid, right? Because you have such great purpose or great vision, and you've been, becoming the doctor that you see yourself being, but for so many, it's like, I don't have the right people in place to be that midwife for me, to be that coach. You need the right coach in place, need the right mentor in place, because you can borrow the faith of someone else when you don't have faith in yourself.
Oh, yes. I love that. Borrowing thoughts is one of my favorite things.
Wow. So were there times in this where you had to borrow the thoughts from someone else?
Oh, yeah.
And what thought would now?
So,
what thought would that be?
So interestingly, unlike medical school, where you go to medical school, you learn all the things, and then you go into practice and start preaching, right?
Yeah.
Coaching, when you get your coaching certification, it requires you to get coached. So while you're coaching and learning the skills for coaching, you're also practicing on your coaching partner, but your coaching partner is practicing on you.
Yeah. So
along the way, you get your own coaching. And along the way, you realize your own thought errors and your own health errors, or I call them errors loosely because they're really just decisions that you make. And one of mine that I've borrowed from my coaching partner, Morgan, I'll give her a little shout out, is that when I don't feel like I can, or when I said, oh, well, I'm not really capable, is what I used to say. She's like, but is it possible that you might be capable someday? And at first I was like, I mean, I guess, sure. She's like when you were in medical school, well, did you know that you were going to be a good doctor? And you're like, no. So how did you know you were going to be a doctor at all when you were in medical school? Because I was learning to be. And she's like, aha. Right. So I am always learning to be capable of doing X, Y, and Z. Yeah. Today, I am 100% confident in my doctor skills. I am not 100% confident in my parenting skills because I have never had an 11-year-old son and 14-year-old daughter until today. Yeah. So I'm always like, I don't know what to do. There's no instruction manual. There is no PubMed Google search on how to treat X, Y, and Z, right? What's the latest research and what to do with 14-year-old girls, right? I only know what I was. Please God, let her be better than me. She already is. Yeah. But I do believe, or I practice believing, that I am capable of being the mom that they need me to be. Oof, I should probably repeat that to myself on a daily basis. Yes, because that little, switch is key to successfully parenting. It's the mental mindset. If you can switch it just 1 degree, you will be able, then you will start putting into action. You start reading those books. You talked about a book that you read earlier. You will start, surrounding yourself in the right community, that one little switch. But if you have the switch dialed backwards saying, I can't do these things, I'm not able to do these things, then you will always be stuck in that not able to handle the tantrums, not able to handle the teenage years. I have 2 teen boys. So they're 16, 17. He just turned 17 and 15. So if you don't allow yourself, we don't allow ourselves to grow up in these moments, in these times, and learn what we need to learn, we will forever be stuck in I can't, or the impossible, or these limiting
negatives that comes in our atmosphere to keep us from reaching our fullest potential. So in your clinical practice, you emphasize preventive medicine and education,
Oh
right?
yeah.
How do these principles play a role in your coaching approach, and what benefits have you observed in your patients as a result?
Similarly, so I think that as a primary care doctor, my goals, of course, are prevention. Yes, things happen, right, that are out of our control. But I think a lot of what we're predisposed to doesn't always have to